welcome our friend Donald Trump Jr. to the airwaves. Don, how are you, sir?
I've had better days, Mark, but I guess we're getting used to this insanity.
You obviously saw what this judge in New York City did, what he's trying to do to the business that you and your family build up, the value of all things that he puts on Mar-a-Lago. I mean, you can go online and look at Realtor.com and everything else and see the value of properties in Palm Beach, let alone really the premier property on the Atlantic Ocean, period. And what do you make of all this?
Listen, I think it's more of the same, the weaponized use of our justice system to target political enemies. I mean, use Mar-a-Lago as the example. It's a 20-acre parcel of property on the ocean in Palm Beach, Florida. Now, again, when someone puts a value of $18 million on that to someone, I can understand how that's a lot. But if you look at, the 2.2-acre parcel that's not on the ocean, that is just undeveloped, no home even on it, that's on the market for $150 million, it should put things into perspective. You look at the small, 1-acre homes around it that are on the market for $40, $50, $60 million, and this 20-acre parcel with arguably one of the finest homes anywhere in the world on it is worth 18. Not because others said it, but because a judge decided to disregard real estate experts in the market, decided to disregard testimony from bankers and others to go after, I guess, the enemy of the Democrat Party, which is Donald Trump, because he's the only one talking common sense to the American people. And they're getting it. They're buying into it. You can see that in the polls. You can see that across the board. So we're in a pretty scary place, Mark. I mean, this is like the Bolshevik Revolution. They want to confiscate property. They want to eliminate our ability to do business anywhere in New York. It's so broadly worded that professional real estate experts and lawyers don't even understand exactly what it means, and it never ends. It just continues. Just yet another attack.
Yeah, and the question is, the way they keep boxing in you and your family and your father in particular, how do you even appeal something like this? You got to go through all this stuff, and then you appeal, and you're in a Democrat jurisdiction. It's like there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, it's designed to be lose-lose, right? You see that. And it's not just us, right? They've tried doing this to the people in January 6th who can't possibly get a fair trial in Washington, D.C., with 97% Republican base that hates their guts. You see the same thing in Fulton County. You saw that with Trump, with the Florida stuff where they had to have a grand jury in Washington, D.C. set up to go after him in Florida because they knew they probably wouldn't get their desired outcome in Florida. So they changed the rules and the machinations, and that's okay. If you're a Democrat, you can do whatever you want. You can change the rules like they did during the election, and everyone has to follow lockstep. But they've commandeered the highest echelons of government and our institutions across the board. So they're allowed to do that. They're allowed to get away with that. They can disregard state constitutions and otherwise because, magically your rights disappear in an emergency, Mark, obviously. So they've weaponized our government against its own citizenry and certainly against their political enemies. And I think the reason Donald Trump keeps going up in the polls and my father keeps dominating those polls is that because people actually understand that. They realize how ridiculous it is. And they also understand there's no coincidences anymore. Just like all the other indictments they drop the day after Joe Biden gets bad news or Hunter's linked to another form of graft or another email linking Joe with the Chinese Communist Party leaks. This time it's the Chinese Communist Party using Joe Biden's home address to send Hunter. And, oh, no, this is like a child if he was living at home with his parents, Mark. This is the excuse they make for a 50-year-old, right? He's a child living at home with his parents making millions of dollars selling out our nation. I don't think anyone believes that. I also don't think that they believe that the Chinese Communist Party is dumb enough to hire crackheads unless they're just buying influence, which, of course, they were. People are seeing through the insanity, and, hopefully they're finally going to push back on it, because if they don't, I'm not sure what America looks like in a few years.
But it's very harrowing to see that there are people, Democrats, dressed up as prosecutors, dressed up as judges, up and down the chain, in county cases, in state cases, in federal cases, who are desperate to bankrupt your father and your family and put him in prison for the rest of his life. I mean, that is unimaginable. I don't care how much somebody goes through. That is just like, not only what the hell is happening to the country, but the media are all in. It's perfectly fine by them. This is real totalitarian stuff, right?
Oh, 100%. And not only are they totally fine with it, they still continue to screech about Vladimir Putin if he does that to his political enemies, while totally ignoring that they want to give Donald Trump 750 plus years, and in some cases the death penalty, just so we're understanding what we're talking about. So the people that preach about that, they scream to the high heavens on a daily basis, Mark, oh, well, we're going to conveniently neglect that because they don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about our Constitution, democracy, our republic. That's all talking points for them. That's a sound bite. They say it until it behooves them not to, and then they conveniently ignore these things. But what's going on right now is exactly what happens in dictatorial regimes, where the Biden Justice Department can be weaponized against his political enemies, against anyone that would stand up to him, while simultaneously functioning as his personal bodyguard, protecting him from what, to me, is by far the most flagrant corruption we've ever seen in our country. What's going on with the Biden documents? I understand that they'll say, "Oh, where's the evidence?" Other than the bank transfers, other than the emails, other than the sworn testimony, other than the text messages, other than the photographs, other than thousands of documents of evidence and actual wire transfers, and there's no evidence. This is what's going on, and they continue to say that with a straight face. I mean, what Joe Biden's doing makes Watergate look like it's kindergarten, and yet, there's nothing to see here. There's no evidence, Mark. There's no evidence whatsoever.
Your father's been called Hitler. He's been called Stalin. He's been called Mussolini. He's been called mentally unhinged. He's been called all these things. And so when you shoot back and you say these tactics are Stalinist, oh, how dare you say they're Stalin? Don't you know the history of Stalin and so forth and so on? Do they not know the history of Hitler and Mussolini and Stalin and the rest of them when they use that kind of verbiage against your father? Let me ask you a question. If Donald Trump wins the presidency, do you think the Democrat Party and the Democrat media and their activist, violent militia groups, do you think they're going to accept it?
I don't know that it matters, Mark. I think, if you look at what they're doing in Philadelphia this week, if you look at what they did during the, what was dubbed the Summer of Love, according to the media, it happened to be, looting, rioting, arson, murder, minor details like that. They're going to do what they want. They don't believe in the law. They're totally for lawlessness, except for against their political enemies. When you talk about all the names they call Donald Trump, I mean, the same people, Justin Trudeau up in Canada, everyone's a Nazi. The truckers, those people were Nazis. Honk honk when they were doing peaceful protesting, wanting to object to being forced and mandatory vaccinations. Honk honk was an ode to Heil Hitler, according to this same clown. Brings a former Waffen-SS Nazi officer onto the floor of Canadian Parliament, and the guy gets 2 standing ovations. I mean, you can't make up this level of insanity. I mean, I understand this is a Saul Alinsky sort of rule for radicals. Accuse them of doing all the things that you're actually doing, but that's exactly what's happened. Trump was going to be the grifter. Trump was going to get us into World War III. Trump was stealing money. He was dependent on Russia. I mean, all of these things have happened to Joe Biden. I mean, he's taking money from these institutions. Our policies are America last. We're on the brink of World War III with the world's largest nuclear superpower by volume of missiles, Russia. And no one's even asking, do you think, we gave $130 billion to the Ukraine because, I don't know, maybe they have more information on Joe Biden and they're weaponizing it against our government? I mean, if I can think of something like that, that seems like clearly the most plausible reason for some of the insanity and the decisions being made right now. How is it that our media is not even willing to ask the question? They're not even willing to consider it. If it was Donald Trump, they'd be asking the question.
Well,
they did that with Russia for 3 years with exactly zero evidence.
Let me circle back on this Nazi thing to get something straight, though. Your father was the biggest supporter of Israel of any president in the United States, period. and the Israelis love your father. That's number one. Number two, your sister converted to Orthodox Judaism. You have nieces and nephews who are Orthodox Jews. That's number two. Number three, Donald Trump has many, many partners he's dealt with, people who have worked for him, people who have represented him, people who have been friends with him, who are Jewish. These are hardly the actions of a neo-Nazi. Now, I'm certainly not claiming Obama's a neo-Nazi or a Nazi or Biden, but by their terms, you got to wonder, because Obama undermined the state of Israel at every turn. Obama sold out the state of Israel to the Iranians in that nuclear deal. Biden's been selling out the state of Israel to the Iranians in the nuclear deal. And Biden has treated the prime minister of Israel like he's some kind of a reprobate, or there's something wrong with him. They've tried to remove him from office using NGOs. They try to diminish his strength in Israel. They use these left-wing front groups in Israel and Europe to pour tons of money into these dark money operations to try and take out his government and turn that country Jew against Jew, civil war. And they dare to call your father these things? What about the Democrat Party? What about the fact that Franklin Roosevelt wouldn't let hundreds of thousands of Jews into this country during the height of the Holocaust? And they wound up in gas chambers. The Democrat Party, well, he defeated the Nazis. Well, that's great. But he didn't lift a finger to deal with the Holocaust at the time when they simply could have. And by the way, neither did the New York Times or the rest of the media. So if people want to know the truth, what really took place, take a look at Joe Kennedy Sr. They had to yank Joe Kennedy Sr. from ambassador of Great Britain because he was back channeling to the Third Reich. And even FDR said, what the hell? And had to pull him back. That's the history of neo-Nazism in this country, or anti-Semitism in this country. Your father did nothing to promote anti-Semitism. Quite the contrary. Even signed a law. I just want to make this clear. An executive order, I should say, about anti-Semitism on our college campuses. He's the first one to do something like that. So this is how the Democrat Party operates. They call people, as you said earlier, what they actually are, and they project their own history and actions onto somebody else. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well, listen, you said it perfectly. I mean, another example of that would be John Kerry effectively lobbying Iran against America's interests, certainly to the detriment of Israel. And these things happen. If these were Trump administration people, they'd be in jail. They'd be brought up on charges. They'd be tried under, whether it's Hatch Act or one of the acts that they would do that. But, if it's John Kerry, it's okay. That's Democrat royalty. He can, talk about, carbon emissions and, while his wife has a private plane. But then when he's questioned in front of Congress, he said, well, I don't have a private plane. Oh, well, your wife. Oh, my wife. I didn't realize that's what you were talking about. I mean, these people will lie through their teeth. There's nothing they won't do. And I think that's what the American populace has to understand. I think they're actually starting to get it because it has been so ridiculous. It has been so egregious. We keep hearing about the great successes of Bidenomics. I can't name a single metric by which we're doing better, and other people do that. If I'm the son of a billionaire, Mark, from Manhattan, and I'm pissed off when I go to the pump, and I get it when I'm in a supermarket, or I take my kids out to dinner because the inflation and the spending and the insanity. I mean, imagine what the average American's doing. I'm not supposed to get that. I'm not supposed to see it. And if I do, and these people are oblivious while lying to us and selling us this bill of goods, that's nonsense. It's no different than the UAW workers. I know my father's there now talking to them, but their leadership, no, we were for Joe Biden. Why? Because the Democrats have been shipping union jobs and the American dream of hardworking Americans abroad for decades. They're doing it currently under their noses with the electric vehicle scheme and all of that nonsense. But, union leadership has been bought into, and they're all on the payroll of the Democrat Party. So they're going to take the hardworking guys' dues, okay, who work and who are Trump supporters, by the way, and they're certainly America first, and they're going to give that to the Democrat Party. It's insane.
I got a hard break. It's terrific having you. I wish you and your family well. I really do. I'm appalled at what's taking place here, and God bless you, my friend.
I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you.
Take care of yourself.